Welcome to Rom Wills Money Matters. Don't expand too quickly. I'm gonna tell you what, and I've talked about this before, and this is very important. And I thought about this because I thought about it was a more of a metaphysical type of bookstore that was in the Maryland area well over a decade ago. And I remember they were small at first. But then they had the backing of a millionaire, one of those lottery millionaires too. And they expanded. All of a sudden, they went from like a small place to a big place. And I remember, they just, it was like in a strip mall, and the millionaire bought the stores in the strip mall and expanded. And they ended up going out of business. And I never forget when I looked at them doing this. I'll never forget, my first thought was they expanding too quickly. Because they had this big old space, but you go there and it was empty most of the time. It was empty. And my first thought was they expanded too quickly. If you have a bookstore like brick and mortar store, and I don't care what it's for, you don't want to expand until it's just too crowded in there. Then you expand. But if you have a brick and mortar store of anything and you barely getting people in there and you're not getting a crowd of people in there, you don't expand. You don't expand thinking, oh yeah, a bunch of people are going to come. No, they're not. If you're going to expand, make sure you can handle the expansion. Make sure if you expand to a bigger space, you got people going to fill that space, because you still have to pay for that space. You still have to fill that space with product. You still have to sell that product. You don't want to ever expand too quickly. In fact, there was a minister who has said, this is a minister now, said when you expand, it should be 3 steps forward, but 2 steps back. Expansion should be slow, and make sure you can fill it up. Make sure that you can pay for everything, because that particular store, that bookstore, metaphysical bookstore, actually went out of business, well, I'd say within a year, quickly. They're not in business anymore. And my first thought was, I expanded too quickly. That was my first thought. And I knew that, but who listens to Rom? And everything. And they thought everything would be going good and all of that. And it was just a big cluster, whatever. Look, when you expand your business, it's very important you make sure you have customers. I don't care what it is. A brick and mortar, online, you going door to door, you cleaning houses. I don't care what it is. Before you get more equipment, before you do anything, before you expand your products, make sure you can handle that. I've seen some restaurants try to expand too quickly and they couldn't really handle that. I've seen, it's just a different thing. See, you want to expand slowly. And then as you expand, you want to make sure you get customers. See, you don't want to just expand and think people are just going to come. It is better that you start off with more people than you can handle in that space and then expand. Because no matter if you're selling a service, whether you're selling a product, you need people to pay for it. Because, okay, let's use that store example again. Say you expand the store, but then you don't get the people who are going to pay for it. Now, they were able to pay for the smaller spot. You were getting the people there. But then you don't want to be to a point where you got a bigger space, you got more to pay for, you got utilities and all of this. You got to get more product in there, but you don't have the people. Or even if it's a service, say you have a massage place. All right, you got a small place doing massages. All right, you got people paying for it. But then you expand, but then you don't have people paying for it. They're not coming in. See, any business, you got to really think about the customers. You got to think, okay, do I have the people for it? Now, if you're in a place where you have more people than can really fit into that space and it's crowded and everything, then you expand because you automatically got the people. See, before you expand a business, make sure you can make money off of it. Make sure you have the customers. That's the very important thing. You gotta do that. You gotta do that before anything else. You have to make sure that you have everything in place, and then you expand slowly. You know, I've even seen that in a situation where maybe you might not expand the space, but you might get a second location. All right. If you're going to get a second location, make sure you got customers who are going to be there. Like one of the things, like talk to the customers as they coming in, see where they from. Like you might have a certain amount of customers from a certain neighborhood that's different from where the business is. You need to make sure it's like, oh, okay. You had about 1,000 customers. Yes, I know that's a lot. You have 1,000 customers from, a certain neighborhood, right? And it's crowded in your place anyway. Then you move stuff to that neighborhood. Because I don't care what business you start, I don't care what business you get in, you gotta have the customers. I don't care what it is. You have to make sure. You have to think about it first. You just don't expand. I've seen a lot of businesses expand, but they didn't have the people. They thought the people would just come. I would just say, now this is me. Maybe somebody would say something different. Make sure that you have the customers first. Don't expand thinking the customers will come. You don't know. Like you might expand your store or get a second location, but you don't have the customers in that particular area. Like check out the demographics first. I've talked about that. Check out the demographics in the area. Do you have people that will support your particular business in that area? Or if you want to expand your brick and mortar location where you at, do you have the customers who are going to come in for that? Shoot, even if you expanding your website, have you had a couple crashes or something, or so many people coming that you can have more space on there or whatever? Before you expand your business, it could be a delivery business. Are you getting so many deliveries you need a new truck or something? Whatever the case, make sure you have the customers first and then expand. Don't expand thinking, oh yeah, the customers are just going to show up. You don't know that. Even when you've done your due diligence and looked at the demographics, you still don't know. You expand slowly and see what happens. You grow slowly. That's how you do it. Do not expand too quickly, all right? I want y'all to think about that. So many businesses have messed up because they expanded too quickly. And then they couldn't pay for, because, one thing with businesses, you still got to pay for products or whatever. Or if services, you got to pay employees something. You paying more money. And then you expand too quickly, but you don't have the customers, then you get in trouble. You don't want to do that, all right? I want y'all to think about what I just said. So, in the meantime, y'all know the deal. Let's go make that money.